Emotional rebounds, they may seem fun, they may seem exciting, especially after you've broken up with someone, but it actually can lead to a lot more disappointment and hurt and frustrations as well. So I'm going to share with you the kind of journey that I've gone through in terms of emotional rebounds and the 3 lessons that I learned in order to protect my heart again. You know, in my last video, I talked about how I went through this huge heartbreak and it was completely devastating, and it was also a season where I had to learn how to adapt back into single life, and it was really difficult. So one of the pieces of advice that one of my mentors gave me was actually, like, Nora, make sure whatever you do, be really, really careful about the interactions you have with the opposite sex. So make sure you don't talk to them late at night, don't talk to them too deep emotionally, because you're super vulnerable right now. And obviously I think you can kind of guess where I'm leading to. I didn't really end up listening to advice, even though I tried to. It was definitely not easy to, and this is kind of my own story and my journey about navigating through an emotional rebound. So after breaking up with my ex for maybe around a month, I started to talk to this guy, and honestly started off really platonic. We were just talking about just general lighthearted stuff, and then as the weeks went on, we would grow deeper and deeper in our relationship or in our friendship, and we would talk about more emotionally vulnerable topics as well. And I kind of started to let my guard down, the guard that my mentor told me to keep up, and I started to talk about even my breakup and processing through the things that were happening at that time as well. So I ended up just even developing feelings for the guy slowly over the weeks, and at the end of the day, I just remember that I started to really rely on him instead of relying on God. And that was probably one of the red flags that I ignored, because it made me, now that I see that in hindsight, I realized that it was bringing me away from God and away from the purposes that God had for me in that healing season. So aside from distracting me from God and also prolonging the healing process, when I look back on it, I realized that it was actually really selfish, because I kind of used the guy, even though it was unintentional, because I just wanted someone to, hear me out, trying to comfort me, and to maybe forget about the heartbreak and the hurt that I was going through, even regardless of whether that was kind of leading that person on to. And if I really think about it and I really am honest with myself, I know that every time, or most times that I would talk to him, I would also feel guilty within my spirit, because I knew that it wasn't the right thing to do at that period of time as well. Yet I kind of ignored that second red flag, and I just kept on pursuing that until eventually it died out. So after things died out, I had some time to kind of do a bit more reflection, and I actually consolidated 3 things that I learned on how I can protect and guard my own heart when it comes to emotional rebounds. Number 1, we need to learn how to be led by our spirit over our emotions. In Jeremiah 17:9, it says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it?" And in some versions, it actually says that the heart is wicked. And it's wicked and it's sick because it can actually deceive us into doing things that maybe not be the wisest things at the times. And that's so true, because when I look back on that season of my life, when I was going through that whole emotional rebound, I was justifying a lot of the actions I was doing based on how I felt at the time in that moment as one. I didn't really think or didn't really, ask the Spirit what I should be doing. At the end of the day, when we want to learn to be led by the Spirit, how we can do that is by having communion with God. The more times we have communion with God and the deeper the intimacy that we can go with Him, it will allow us to just be able to hear and understand that it's His leading and His voice that is guiding us as well. So things that I've done over the years that have helped me is to, read the Bible, walk with God daily, pray to Him, worship, silence and solitude, whatever it is that you can do to build a relationship with Him. The closer that you walk with Him, the easier it is actually to be led by His Spirit. Number 2, make sure that you put boundaries in place. As you can see, it's so important to guard your heart and also your mind. And in Proverbs 4:23, it says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." And one way that we can do that is really consider who we interact with and how we interact with them, what depth and what level we interact with them. And one piece of advice that my pastor actually gave me was that it's not about what is right and wrong in situations, but it's actually about what is wise and unwise. Because if we think about it, it's actually not wrong to, text someone of the opposite sex. It's not wrong to, hang out with them one-on-one. But at the end of the day, if we know that we're still emotionally vulnerable, it's just not the wisest thing to do. So that's a really good question that I've asked asked myself to use for multiple applications over my life, and that's really helped to keep me out of trouble essentially. Number 3, have accountability. It's so important to surround yourself with a community, with people that are godly, that are wise, and that have, good counsel to give you. So I had my mentors, I had my best friends, I had different leaders kind of speak into my life as I was navigating through this emotional rebound. And often they actually told me not what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And that's the sort of community and accountability that we all need. My best friend actually told me, to take a year off dating after this whole emotional rebound kind of unraveled, and honestly that was the best piece of advice that I got, because taking that year off I was able to rebuild my relationship with God, to refocus, to heal, and just to completely start over again as well. So it's so important to allow people to speak into your life, to have that teachable spirit, and also to allow yourself to have those open and honest conversations with them. So as I lent into God instead of an emotional rebound, I started to see God really bring healing on those deep wounds that were caused from the heartbreak that I had as well. In Psalm 34 verses 18 to 19, it says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. The righteous person faces many troubles, but the Lord comes to the rescue each time." And it's reminded that we're not going to never have any troubles, but the beauty is that God will rescue us from that each time. He's so faithful, He is so loving, that He will come when you come and seek Him in your heartbreak as well. So what I remember from this experience is that, as I turned to God, He did something that no man could have done for me in terms of healing me and just restoring me back to being whole again. So I hope from this video that you're encouraged to lean into God in your pain and your heartbreak, if that's a season that you're going through, to not look towards emotional rebound, because at the end of the day, it's a bit more like a band-aid that you put over a deep wound. It's actually something that's just a temporary fix, but actually doesn't really allow you to heal in the deep process as well. And if you have any experiences with emotional rebounds, any lessons that you might have learned from your past, I'd love you to comment them down below so that I can also read them and learn from them too. If you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to Salt's YouTube channel for more videos on singleness, dating, and relationships.